How's everyone feeling today? Doing good? Having a good Sunday? Fabulous. For those who don't know me, my name is Jackie. I am the founder and event producer for Creative Colloquy, which is a Tacoma-based literary nonprofit. We do live events. We have an online publication, and this is all a part of our annual Creative Colloquy Crawl, which is usually a large in-person event, but given the season, we are doing it on Zoom. I'm super stoked that Mike and Write253 hit you guys up and asked you to share your work. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Michael Heffelinger. Mike, take it away.
Thanks, Jackie. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to see our readers, Tara, Carmela, Celia, and Emerson with us today. It looks like Tara just was having some technical issues. I saw her go like this and then she disappeared. So we can, maybe what we can do is take a moment first to thank Jackie and Creative Colloquy for having us. We have 4 readers with us today. And I am really lucky to know all 4 of these young people in different capacities and in different programs that we do through Write253, which, for those of you who don't know, is a literary arts organization based in Tacoma that works primarily with teens and young adults. And some of our programs include Louder Than a Bomb Tacoma, which is our teen poetry slam festival. And that takes place normally in the spring, as well as Line Break Press, which is our letterpress printing operation. And we also have just recently launched Disclaimer Magazine, which is a magazine for teens and young adults that's currently taking submissions. So if you are between 13 and 22 and you've got poetry, prose, or visual art that you would like to submit, when I hide my screen as people are reading, you'll be able to see our information, so how you can submit. So without further ado, I was going to ask Celia if she would be interested in kicking off the show for us today. You into it, Celia?
Sure. Okay.
Give me 1 second to give you a formal introduction.
Okay, cool.
Celia Namura Parmenter is a proud queer biracial woman. She's a sophomore majoring in theater and humanities at Tacoma School of the Arts, otherwise known as SOTA. She hopes to be a high school teacher, particularly for students of color, disabled students, and LGBTQ plus students. She enjoys writing, acting, and learning, and she can't wait for the pandemic to be over. She's had so much fun working on a Disclaimer, which is where I'm reading this bio from, so you can go over to Disclaimer and see Celia's bio there, and also learn a little bit more about the magazine. So I'm going to hand it over to Celia, who didn't mention in her bio is also an excellent tailor. Is that the right term for the work that you do, tailor?
I don't know. I did make this shirt though, and I'm wearing like 5 petticoats right now. So that's
there you go. All right. So without further ado, Celia, take it away.
Okay. So the first poem I have a few, so I'm just gonna read them off. The first one I have is called Glossary, because I couldn't think of a better title for it, but that will be to be determined. Yeah. Internal monologue, a scene in which you are the only and the main character. The setting is your mind, and the lines are simply the dialogue of your thoughts. Talking, recklessly chosen parts of your internal monologue. Writing, carefully chosen parts of your internal monologue. The ratio of words in an internal monologue to words spoken aloud is 5:1. To words written down is 20:1, and interesting words is 25:1. So since words thought to said is 5:1 and words thought to interesting words is 25:1, then that means that interesting things said to all things said is like 1:5. Words written to thoughts is 1:20, and since words in your internal monologue to interesting thoughts is 25:1, then words written to interesting words written has a chance to be 5:4. That's a good ratio. Now the fact is that the ratio of this poem of words written to interesting words written is probably only 5:2. But hopefully once I'm done reading this poem, I'll write my next poem and I'll get 5:3. Thank you. The next one I have is When the World Begins to End. It will start to rain around all the deer habitats in the forest. The deer's homes will be flooded, and the wolves watch from the sun and laugh, proud of their sunny corners until a thunderstorm arrives. Lightning hits the wolves' dens, and all the deer laugh and say, well, that's what they get for mocking us. The wolves scare and shame the deer for laughing at them, and the deer point at the lightning and say it's all the lightning's fault. To stop the lightning from inflicting apathy, the wolves build a giant wall. The wolves will go to town meetings and boast about how wonderful the wall is, and the wolves will have the role of supposedly protecting deer by telling them what's best, and the deer can't do anything. There will be a mass selling of shelters to protect from the lightning. Almost everyone will work making these shelters. If you're lucky, you'll get to make rain boots or pretty umbrellas, but if you do, then people will laugh at you. What are you, an intellectual, a struggling artist? When a lightning storm comes again, everyone is better prepared. Deer don't get hit, but one wolf's den does because of a broken shelter. Angered, the wolves set out to fire and shun whoever made that broken shelter, and unsurprisingly, a deer is found guilty. That deer is shunned into exile as an example of what happens when we don't all follow instructions properly. The wolves grow to live much better than the deer, cozy dens and safety from the rain, while the deer struggle to find spots to sleep. But the wolves earned their comfort and safety, didn't they? And the deer deserved what they had for laughing at the wolves oh so long ago. Whenever the town chooses a leader, all the voices of the deer are silenced as punishment for mocking. Eventually, the distance between wolves and deer will get bigger, and once the dreaded thunderstorms will become normal. We won't have noticed that the deer are nearly all gone, or that there are more thunderstorms than there used to be, and if we did, it wouldn't have mattered. The world was used to thunderstorms now, and the few deer left tell us, when the world begins to end, it will start to rain.
Wow, so good.
Thank you. And that poem was actually based on fascism, if you couldn't tell. I looked up like the paper that says, here are the things lead to fascism, and I turned all of those into that. So definitely look that up because it's here. It's happening now in America. Okay, so the next poem I wrote a couple of years ago at Poetry Camp, and it made me really happy. So this is called Stained Glass Moon Rain. She dances in the rain as tears and raindrops mix, forming sea glass on the sand. And up, up, up through the clouds, a lunar spotlight shines on her. Stars are in her audience, smiling down upon her, watching as she dances her troubles away. That one was pretty short, but you know. And then I have this next one, which is Perfect is my utopian sunset. The pigment only lasting for a moment before washing away with the sun, unattainable and fleeting, perfection impales me. And I wonder how and why the orange and pink colors could fall away so quickly and easily. Shadows pointing distorted hands and throwing their heads back to laugh, I can't help but cower away from the shame and pointing fingers. The shadows fall slightly back, just enough for me to glance up and see that these are my shadows. And underneath the darkened sky, I'm standing on a large body of water. My reflection is tainted with insecurity, and I miss the utopian sunset of perfect, the comforting fantasy and mirage of confidence and joy. I look up, and me and my reflection both see a crack in the wall of darkness. We look closer, and it's a star. We see another, and another 3, and then 2 more, and suddenly there's thousands of them. We start to smile, and then we start to love that smile. We start to love the fat on our thighs and rolls on our stomach, our hip dips and the bags under our eyes, that weird thing we do when we get nervous, like right now, and our illegible handwriting. Our short temper and high-pitched laugh that takes up a room, and the fact that we cry during 10-minute Disney shorts. All the imperfections and the things the shadows laughed at don't seem imperfect anymore, they seem real. We smile up at the shadows, and in response, they break farther and farther apart, revealing acceptance and respect, until finally, from the prison of the horizon, our star breaks free. The star rises, and we no longer care about the shadows cast behind. Our star fulfills us, and we are free. Thank you. And then the last poem is, I wrote an ode for one of my friends. And yeah, one of the things that I tried to do when I was in poetry camp in 7th grade was write an ode. And it was really hard to do because I could never get it right. So I just tried to write it again. And I had a lot of fun with it, so I thought I'd share it. So this is the only ode I've ever written. That's the title. Ode to you and our inside jokes. Ode to the alter egos we made for one another, and ode to the time we spend. Ode to your smile that lights up the room, and ode to those wishes we made. You wouldn't tell me yours because then it wouldn't come true. So I wrote mine down and folded up like a love note. Don't worry though, I'll give it to you once it happens. Ode to sitting here waiting to hand you my folded up wish, and ode to tipping hats to each other like 18th century businessmen. And I bow regally, but instead of bowing, you decide to fall over laughing, so I do the same. Letting myself fall into a field of imaginary flowers and staring up at imaginary stars and planets. And from 6 feet apart, the only thing I love more than falling is you catching me. So yeah, those are the poems that I wrote, and I hope you enjoyed them. And
Thanks, Celia.
yes, thank you.
Thanks for
I can't
sharing.
wait to hear you guys read.
Give it up for Celia, everyone out there. Yeah, I love Caleb's cartoon hand clap.
Yay.
Yeah. And I was thinking, Jackie, is it possible, like, if folks are watching on Facebook, if they have questions maybe that they want to ask of the writers, but I'm not monitoring the Facebook feed, so I don't know what the questions might be.
I can absolutely keep an eye on the Facebook feed if anything pops up. We did get some hearts as an applause on there, so that was
Nice.
good. When you see all the hearts bubble up, I'm like, yeah, they're listening. So I'll keep an eye on it, and then I will pipe in when there's some questions at the end.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay.
Tomiko wrote in the chat, "That's my kid."
That's my mom.
That's your mom. Cool. Our next reader, I hope, I didn't actually clear the order with folks before, so I'm just kind of like making this up as I go along. But I was hoping Carmela would read next. Carmela, are you down for it?
Heck yeah.
All right, let me read your bio, introduce you to the world. Carmela is a tiramisu connoisseur and a vinyl junkie. She enjoys reading poetry and going to art exhibitions. Currently, she is a senior at Lakes High School. And if I'm not mistaken, this is your first public reading. Is that correct?
It sure is. I'm a little nervous.
No, you're going to do great. This is really exciting because Jackie can attest that like Creative Colloquy is a space for a lot of people's first public readings in this area in Tacoma and Pierce County. So you are in good company, Carmela. So without further ado, let's give it up for Carmela.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. So I'm going to be reading 4 of my original poems today. And my first one, I was having like a conversation with one of my friends about time capsules and like what we put in them and like just how weird they are too. So this is called Ethan's poem. I can look out and off, immersed in the depths, swaying. I am a cut across a clear bounty, one drop of violet, eroding the glass and water. I wish to ride on summery roads, see sepia and tones of serotonin, polka-dotted dips of completed light. How am I attached to my being, unconscious if the tangibility is fleeting, and I am left to eye rolls and dark wallpaper from my eyelids? Who? Where? I detach from the flesh, peering down at a lake that stares back at me for ages and thousands of decades and canyons of years, until that impression in the glass, rumbling surface is lost. The capsule I hold in my 2 feet is the evidence of my ashen mark on neighborhoods and school grounds. The capsule stretches over my time and captures a vessel of atmosphere. I pray on my carpet, on my bed, pillows cushioning, knees isn't true, and it's closed. How big can it be, collective in all, yet still remain accessed and small? Multitasking is difficult, we've been told. So what compromises the timeline? Who tells us the boundaries that lead us to die? So that was my first poem. My second poem is, I just kind of want to give an introduction to this because I just wrote it actually last night and I kind of liked it because I was annoyed about just quarantine and just all the garbage that's going on in our world right now. And there's just like a curious nature to being home for 6 months. So this is called 4x4. If the world ended today, I would throw out my papers neatly and orderly to compact them, that they be eternally set from being astray. I would crush my mother's pearl ashtray and then set the couch on fire. It smelled of old dog collecting lint and human flesh, turning swiftly from darkish to brownish gray. I would make a cup of tea and then stretch out onto the acres and acres, followed by a graceful walk towards the trees. They too have been calling me since I made an acquaintance. I would snap the back of my chair because it was determined on snapping mine. What a useless product it was. It came from plastic and everything evil. How have we limited our space to pavement? The pavement. Yes, just to be melodramatic for the cameras in my hidden movie, I would lay and stretch on the pavement, push forth my hands and spine to the layers and layers of pavement. Only then could I evaporate and for once be lost. So that was that poem.
What?
My
Really good.
my second to last one is Homecoming. Thank you. And this is just kind of like a jumble of all my memories from my dad coming home from deployment. My dad is active duty in the military, so. Every now and then, pockets of backlog stored deep in me may allow themselves to submerge. Somehow, they connect for, they rush to precede each other, and I will find an unearthed sentiment. Like the first time I cried when Major Dad stormed the blacktops outside of the company, eagerly running, full of Caesar's pizza, pushing through green bodies, following the trail of siblings' shouts. Then I was 4'9", too small to clear out the rest from him. Humans, we think we have discovered every sensation there is to possess and live, but on a rare occasion, we are stolen in shock at a newly found bloodied river, a debuted canal, or arms instinctive, spreading up to be grasped. Was it 2009 or 2008? Whatever the date doesn't alter the stale, stagnant air of the gym. I held no poster. We sat on hot-pressed bleachers, staying clear of the door. It was my show, eagerly tapping feet. Detaching from deployment is fine when you're 7 or 9. We'd hide behind mother's legs. Did he forget me? Do I know him? Looking for Captain Dad first. Mixed with old Red Rock apartment aroma in some hotel was an air of purity and brightness while street lamps flickered to light alleys. Aid Dad would arrive, and how we'd strive to reach the door first. Those quiet moments before rainfall, when I'd watch my mother stall at the coffee table in odd moments of bliss. Tasting these moments, I hope they grow old together. Yes, every child grasps their caretaker. Every wound is to be reckoned with. Every lifetime holds scenes, but they all seem so indescribable. And when I look into LTC Dad's eyes, I absorb joyous, fleeting capsules of the soul, holding them to be most unrecognizable. Thank you. And my last poem I wrote in June, a while back, when the protests were happening. I was really mad, and a lot of people were posting on social media just like this huge amount of information and like opinions on if our lives mattered. So this is my poem of protest. It takes a catalyst, and it is enraging that 3 lives can do more than 3 centuries of this on this soil. I can see it. Panels of Kentucky and Freedom Drive shifting leftwards, fluid, flickering. The air of humidity far from boiling, but steadily creeping behind the backdrops of deafened storefronts and beaten neighborhoods. A heat. We are exhausted from the ranges of years fighting a silent and even fashioned unidentifiable war. Mountains of media that heighten as charges are lightened on those whose destination should be clear. Can you see us tired of feeling the cuts? Left to bleed, photographed and framed, stripped down to the skin by them. Those who hate to see it, bare and black, yet tear until they can. Us, shallow-lunged, subject and sequestered to live beneath the miles of road, paved and cemented, marched and bled on. To add to my breath, my back hurts too. I am carrying the grievances, the spirituals, the families. Does it mean anything? They are embedded in my spine, embedded in the roots of my hair, supplying my pigment, coloring my eyes, clouded, confused of the unreal surrealism that moves outside the car window, distant, traveling further from my recollection. How time can freeze and the lives taken feel false, impossible. This is a hymn we have been humming, before me in the fields, after me in the streets, an inheritance bittersweet, undeniably me. We hum not only for a change, we hum for a restoration of truth. Thank you.
Make some noise for Carmela. That was so wonderful. I can't believe that was the first time you've ever read like before.
You did really good, and especially that last poem was really impactful, and also the second to last poem. I think that one brought a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Carmela and Celia are both members of the editorial board for Disclaimer magazine. So if you're out there watching and you are between 13 and 22 and you want to submit and have them see some of your work, please check out our website and send it in. How do you feel, Carmela?
I'm definitely a little anxious, but it was
Okay,
fun.
good.
It was better than I thought it was gonna go, so it was awesome.
Good. Well, yeah, I think you did great. So I hope you can feel relieved.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Tara Ryan. Hi, Tara, if Tara Ryan's ready to go.
I'm ready.
Let's do this. Tara is a jack of all trades, a young creative, a student now and forever with a passion for creating and consuming literary works, as well as using math and science to save the world, which we appreciate for those of us who don't know much about math and science. We're glad you're out there, Tara. Yeah, we're glad you're out there. And you are a student at Foss High School here in Tacoma, Washington. Is that correct?
I am a
Oh,
sophomore.
Falcons. You're a sophomore.
Go Falcons.
All right, let's hand it over to Tara.
Okay. So the first piece I have for you is what I call a very short story. And it's one that I wrote a long time ago. And that's why it's first, because I'm most familiar with it and I'm a little nervous because I've never done a set this long. All right, this is called 7 Worldly Seas. It felt as though we'd been at sea for years. The intoxicating smell of the ocean had surrounded me since Mother brought us to the port. But as time wore on, the stench of salt that once felt fresh in my lungs left my conscious mind aching. Our fleet of 7 ships, one for each worldly ocean, pushes on through the waves, though I can hear the warped wood groan at night. We sleep in striped cloth hammocks hung below deck. Passengers and crew share the same small wooden room and feigned equality. Last night, Mother woke with an ache in her stomach and had to lay on the starboard deck for an hour. I have yet to feel sick. I guess it will come soon. The captain says we have 6 more days to land, but the cabin boy told me it's really 4. The captain just says that so the passengers will think we've made good time. The cabin boy tells me stories under the stars when sleep beckons and his work is done. He often tells me of the sirens that he sees in the storms, and the way when the waves are left to steer the ship, and the rain to wash the decks. When no one is looking, he climbs into the crow's nest and watches the waves for watery women. The wind will try to rip the sails until some less valuable member of crew is forced to brave the world, newly ruled by a salty tyrant. Okay. So I'm gonna jump quite a few years now into something I wrote this spring during the lockdown. It's inspired by the fact that through that period of time, my girlfriend and I were collecting and pressing flowers for each other, which I found to be reminiscent of Victorian flower dictionaries, which defined like the meaning of flowers so you could write messages. So this piece is called Narcissus, written in flowers. Ancient alluring beauty pulls into the wood, tinged with the fear of the unrequited, but for a young spring nymph, echoing through the seasons and not lost to the freeze, so calendula doth grow in warm humility. The star sustains constancy, and she is preserved, suspended in the space between, held fast by satellites, and your smile, it seems. Blue hyacinthosides follows her, as I follow you, having always been there, as bulbs beneath, but never before has such patience sprung from chasing waterfalls, you and the falling blue. Syringa is not brought lightly, her scent heavy on the heart and rooted deep in me. now both adding to the potent bouquet that forms. I know not the meaning, though I search, wandering perhaps, though I always find my way back. Thank you. This third piece is a bit of a riddle, so I invite you to try to solve it and listen closely. One word feels limited, despite sound being so immense. So I feel the sonic boom of a whip breaking the sound barrier and the white noise that the subconscious finds persuasive. Maybe I fell for you because it rained so hard when I took off all my makeup and you looked at me all the same. Maybe I knew you were beautiful because we met to the sound of early ambient birdsong, resisting the urge to push the hair out of your face. Okay. Second to last poem is one that I also know quite well because I spent some time memorizing it for Louder Than a Bomb, trying to trick it into being a slam piece, which it is not. But here it is. Perfume number 9. Try to remember what's inside. The smell of wine. My body swinging from side to side. Death eats angels, I guess, in the real material world. The dust in the costume vault of the theater that failed. Flamboyant must. Her sweating neck. On the stage it reads, "Be right back." Soft floral soap of an adoptive mother who teaches love is an action and withholds reaction. Rooted in me. A blend. Culmination. The words chanted when my mind is too clear. Life is painfully real at sunrise as lovers part. You and your heart are humming in my head. So there is the being washed out to sea. This morning I woke to a drum, wanting her lips on me. Reflection is the closest you can get to the 4th dimension. We are still in the right atrium. Dissect it all just to see. 2 of us combined can set it on fire, so it's smoky, testing the incense you found under the green cross that no one would die on. A bit of gravity and less reality, so it's half price. Cheap perfume. This last poem is also something quite new, which was actually written for Ocean Fest, which was just last month. This is called Ocean Road. I could never pick between you and the old growth forest, for I've never gotten to know you apart. Raised by rock crabs and pine needles, lessons taught on letting go. Take a breath with the sea and you will feel the life inside. Us is all the same. The sailish sea pulls me to her, finding myself laid out across a swaying nook. Lower a light to draw in your tenants reminds me of rising tides, heat, acid, bodies, and the kelp between my feet. A spider crab spins a web of stories so great that they would tear away the greed like a riptide, uncloud their minds, open their hearts to the salt water. On it they would float, lifted by the voices of the youth, for all streets lead to City Hall. Take up our cry for future from 238,855 miles away. The moon knows our waters better than we do. Thank you so much for listening to my words, and it's been such a pleasure to hear everyone else's.
I want to be Tara when I grow up.
I want to be Celia when I grow up. And Carmela.
That. All of like the words. So good.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. That was so great. How it was really cool to hear like your early stuff, and then like your progression, like up to like Ocean Fest, which was just like you said, just pretty recently. So well done. Thanks for sharing your stuff with us. Really appreciate it. Before I bring on our next poet, I want to say that Emerson, and Celia both participated in Blue Cactus Press podcasts, recent podcasts, episode 12 and episode 13. And Celia's on episode 12 with Gloria Muhammad and Christina Butcher talking about poetry as self-care, and Emerson and Tashawn DeVille and PJ Sorum and I were talking about poetry as activism. So if you go to bluecactuspress.com, you can find their podcast links and listen to Celia, Gloria, and Christina chatting, and Emerson and everyone else that I just mentioned chatting. So you can come and hear more about both of those poets and who they are, and how they see themselves as poets in the world. And I'm saying that to introduce Mr. Emerson Pimentel, who is a student over at the Tacoma Community College. And I've got to find his bio. Sorry, I'm totally slacking. Here we go. You can find him on, this is the important part. This is why I wanted to find the bio, because you can find him on all the streaming services, because he's a poet, but he's also a musician. And if you look for EMPCXT, that's his name.
EMPXET.
Sorry, EMPXET. How do you pronounce that, Emerson?
Impact.
There you go, Impact. So you find Impact on Spotify and other streaming music services. You can check out his music. But I'm really stoked that he's here to read some of his work for us. So Emerson, whenever you're ready.
Yes, I hope everyone's having a good day. Before I begin, I do want to say I originally had some other pieces planned for today. However, recently I have unfortunately lost someone important in my life. And I just want to, and these two pieces I have dedicated to her. The first piece I want to read, I made it for her before she passed. She loved it. She was going through a lot, emotionally, mentally, physically speaking. And I made this for her to cheer her up. And I figured that, I could do this for anyone that, needs to hear it, in case you're going through some similar, issues, whether spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it is, I wanted to read this for her. So, or for you guys. So the first piece I call For You, My Friend. You are the light to my darkness. You are the sunshine to my rain. You are the heart to my soul. You are the pot of gold at the end of my rainbow. You are cared about. You are precious. You are adored. You are loved. You hold a special place in my heart. You take the pain away and turn it into happiness. You hold a special place in my mind. You take the fear and turn it into strength, because you're strong, because you're brave, because you're smart, because you are you. You are stronger than an athlete in their prime. You are brave like a soldier fighting a war. You are smarter than Einstein solving any problem in the world. You are you. You are special, because you're irreplaceable, you are loved, and you are you. You are unique. You are different. You are one of a kind, because you are you. You hold the most precious love. You hold the brightest smile. You hold the strongest heart. You hold the most unique spirit. You are my light. You are my sunshine. You are my heart. You are you. Most importantly, you are unbreakable. Don't you ever forget that, because you are loved and you are cared for. And most importantly, you are you. Oh my gosh, that was rough. Anyways, the second piece that I want to write, again, it was dedicated for her. Like Michael mentioned, I do music. This is more of a song that I wrote. But before I say it, I do want to say that this piece specifically, for me, it is extremely personal, spiritually speaking. Me being a Christian, this piece is basically my conversation that I had with God. So in case, you guys are like, whoa, this is very deep, I just want to put that out there. This does get pretty deep because, again, I lost someone that's very, very special to me. So I wrote this not only for her, but I wrote this as a conversation to God. So with this last piece, it's called Questions. Right. I got questions. I don't know where to ask. Why does life bring us down while it's trying to move fast? Why does pain last forever when a smile is for a second? Why does life come to an end? God, answer my questions. Why you take away the people that we need? I understand that you need angels, but my life is incomplete. It isn't fair how people are gone for our, it isn't fair how people stay for a minute and gone the next. I just want to say goodbye, but my heart is now wrecked. I can't imagine how my life will be without her. I've been crying out for days. Man, I'm broken without her. I've been praying every night. Please, God, bring her back. I've been dying inside. I don't know how to act. I've been trying to find my peace, but you took her away. I've been looking for solutions, trying to wash away the pain. I've been writing on my thoughts, but my heart is too heavy. I've been looking for some clarity, but my mind is empty. I can't believe you took someone that I love. I wasn't ready to let go. Now the joy is not done. I've been having all my problems rushing back to my heart. Please, God, reverse time so I can make the pain stop. I know that people were not made to live forever, but I'm stuck in this rain. I've been down under the weather. I've been looking for a way to try to smile one more time, but the brightest smile is gone. God, I'm losing my mind. I wish man, I wish that I could save you one more time. I just need one more day so I can learn to say goodbye. I've been spending hours writing verses and I've tried not to cry. Please, God, bring her back. I was not ready to say goodbye. Thank you.
Man, thanks, Emerson. Thank you for sharing. Let's take a minute. Let's kind of let that sink in for a second. We appreciate you being here today, Emerson. For real, man. Okay, well, I want to take a moment to thank Jackie for having us, for the creative colloquy help me, Jackie. Help me.
I really didn't think it through that it was going to be a tongue twister, but we'll just call it C3 for short.
C3, right. This is the 6th year of C3, is that right?
The 7th.
The 7th year. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Really.
Bonkers,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Where's the time gone?
I don't know.
Yeah. Wild. I want to thank again Emerson, Tara, Carmela, Celia. Y'all are great. I love you all. Poets, so much for being here today and sharing your work. Did anybody put any questions in the chat at Facebook to ask our young writers?
There were no questions, only heart bubbles.
All right, well, that's where we're going to leave it then. We're just going to let it go with all the heart bubbles. And this will be available on the Creative Colloquy Facebook page. And I think we're going to try to put it up on the Write253 YouTube page. We can share it out with our communities. And we, if folks weren't able to join us in the moment, we can show it to them down the road. Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you all for sharing such powerful work. I am 40 and I have a really hard time reading my own work, and you guys made it look super easy. Like it was just a piece of cake. If there was a microphone, you would have like kicked it down and like walked off the stage and just left us in awe. So way to go, guys. Thank you so much for just sharing your work. Shameless plug, I encourage anyone and everyone to maybe consider submitting the work to Creative Colloquy. I think it's a really great first-time publishing platform. And then I usually follow up and harass you to read again. In person maybe one day, but we're doing it monthly on Zoom right now. Just putting it out there. Submit all the work. Submit to Write253, to the new mag, submit to CC. Share the words, because we love them so much. There it is. See it? Submit.
This letter, guys, it's so cool. You should really submit to it. We're all working really hard and it's super fun. So yeah, do that.
Gold star. Plug it all day. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful night.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care, guys.